When it rains, it pours at our wonderful club, West Ham. According to sources close to the club, first reported from XWHU employee, now reputable reporters all over the globe are reporting that West Ham have previously submitted a bid of £35 million for Colombian international striker Jhon Duran. This has been reported particularly today from Fabrizio Romano. Now, he has also come out and said the following, that West Ham have submitted more than one bid actually for Duran, and understand that the last proposal, which we've said was currently worth £35 million plus a 10% sell on clause. Negotiations are already underway, and personal terms have apparently already been agreed with the Colombian striker. This is a very interesting move from West Ham, considering that the player is plying his trade at Aston Villa. Currently, he has played 49 games for Aston Villa, scoring 8 goals. Not prolific, but we all understand, especially in your first season in the Premier League, as such, that these things will take their time to adjust to the league. So 8 goals that he has scored for the club there. Of course, starting his career with the Chicago Fire in America at the MLS. He is a Colombian international. He's represented Colombia through a lot of the youth setup. He's played 10 times for the Colombian international side with 1 goal to his name. I am in a bit of a different situation because my good friend, best friend I've grew up with my whole life, is Colombian. So I've always had a little snippet of Colombian football, always taken a keen interest in the Colombian international team, not obviously the club teams, but the international sides. Goes all the way back to Higuita, Valderrama, just to name a few, back in the day. So Duran is obviously a player who is do know a little bit about, and also in terms of the international setup. International setup, Colombia have always been a team that have maybe tried to break into that kind of top-notch world-class team, but always just maybe just below the radar, and have then dropped the standards and then raised their standards. And I believe they've been on like a crazy unbeaten run for several months. I want to say that unbeaten run goes, I think, is it 25 games unbeaten or something like that. So they obviously do have a talented bunch of players in South America in the Colombian international setup, and Duran is one of those players that West Ham are keen to bring in. Now, he combines an impressive physical strength with notable pace, which is maybe why you could see this link up being genuinely, a real quality player, because he does play with his back to goal. He's got a good hold up play. He knows how to bring in the players on the wings, but his speed, he has got an electric pace on him, and he can outrun any defender, while he has the strength to hold up the play effectively. All you need to do is go and look at some of the goals he scored as well. Some of the goals with his back to goal, he turns and smashes it into the top corner. But his strength does definitely stand out there. And I think a lot of Premier League defenders would struggle in the right team. Now, there is talk amongst Aston Villa that maybe the player has some attitude issues. We don't necessarily know, but there's a lot of teams that think this player has a lot of high hope, a genuine amount of crazy high hope as an international player. That's why there is a really key point to this potential deal, which is a sell-on fee, a 10% sell-on fee for bringing in a player of the class of Duran. You don't put things like that in place if you still don't think that they can make it. It just might not be suitable under the Emery style of play right now, but that is such a thing. But another thing I really like about Duran's physicality is his ability to hold up everywhere on the pitch. He drops deep, he walks out wide, and he's been playing alongside Ollie Watkins, and that's another player that's maybe kept him in and out of the side a few times as well. But he has played alongside Ollie Watkins as a front two, and he had the freedom to drop deep in the build-up to receive the pass, to allow midfielders to come into play, to simply allow that forward striker even more chances as well. But he is strong. There is no ifs, buts, or maybes with regards to that. And he does know how to bring in the defenders and turn on the ball. He's just a clever footballer. And because he's got that physicality, he's got that speed, that's aided his ability to get to the long balls in the channel. So if we are going to look at options of feeding the ball up over the top of the defenders, he's got the pace to be able to get there. In actual fact, he scores in the top 5 in the Premier League for players who can receive long passes the most. He goes in behind Doku, Unal of Bournemouth, Woodrow Luton Town, Osulu, Sheffield United, and then Duran from Aston Villa. Only Mickey Antonio just drops in just slightly behind them there as well. He's 6'1", but he's very good in the air. He's a significant threat, I suppose you could say, to set pieces and crosses, which would pay dividends to James Ward-Prowse as well as part of that squad. And it's not the only threat of him getting onto the ball, but also a number of bodies that the defenders need to throw at him. You know, he's one of those players that they do want to sometimes double mark as well. And this can open up the ability to allow West Ham to have another attacker in that box attacking the opportunity as well. Now, he does have a very good finish on him. And I'm talking a lot about the positives. And I'm going to say, people will turn around to me and say, well, why would Aston Villa look at selling him? Well, you know, again, players work in different systems differently, but he is a Premier League player. He has scored Premier League goals, but he just might not suit the system under them. But £35 million as well is a lot of money to knock back for a team that have qualified for the Champions League. They're going to have to rebuild themselves. They're going to have to build a stronger squad for their next European campaign. Obviously, making the transition into European football that they're going to do. But he has the power, like I said, but he's also got the accuracy when he's shooting at goal. And sometimes he shoots with those kind of amazing distance shots. I've seen one of his goals where he chests the ball down, and I think he's about 18 yards out, and he just turns and lashes his left foot at it and smashes it into the top corner. He is a very, very decent player, and he's got some decent dribbling ability. It's not a strength, but he's definitely okay at it, and he's allowed to, because of his speed, he's allowed to take on players, and he can take on players and create opportunities, not just for himself, but for his teammates. And he does try to sometimes lay off the ball quite a lot in the hold-up play rather than always trying to go too much into his dribble run. You know, sometimes you see a player say, just pass the ball, just pass the ball, just pass the ball. He actually sometimes does disperse that ball to the opposition player as well. So he is predominantly one-footed, but he can and has scored goals with his opposite foot as well. His first touch is reliable. I would say he is a reliable player. He can control the ball under tight spaces and maintain possession, which I think is something going to be massively key. This is the key part for Lopetegui. He maintains possession for the club, and because he is a bigger player, he can control the ball in tight situations, like I've mentioned. And he has some decent tactical awareness, I think, as well. He's very aware of his surroundings. He's very aware of playing in tight spaces, getting down to the flanks. You know, he's very tactically clever. And when it comes to a football park, like I said, he's versatile. He's not just a centre forward. He can play down the wings if necessarily, so that can be beneficial to a squad. And he's got a high work rate that comes in all of those camps. But I suppose you could say a lot of money that Aston Villa have paid, and people have said at Aston Villa that he can be wild at times, and sometimes gets turned over a few times on the park where, you know, when he wants to go for maybe a little bit of glory. But I think that comes with a little bit more experience over time. Remember, the player is only 20 years old. So in his first season at Aston Villa, you know, that's going to be the vultures are going to be out to judge you as much as they possibly can. So I think that is something I would be keen to keep an eye on, but I think you can learn under the right coach. But I think that what's interesting about this player is there's a shed load of potential for him. There absolutely is. And I think him coming to a club like West Ham would be maybe a good match made in heaven. Maybe it's not one that you'd thought of. Maybe it's not one that you thought that maybe we would actually bring it through. But he's an proven international player who's played Premier League football, who comes with a good background as well, and could be a player that could fit that mold of West Ham up top. So apparently, the rumor is we're in negotiations with Aston Villa, trying to see if we can get a deal over the line. It would be interesting to see. So you let me know your thoughts in the comments. We'll bring you more as this story transpires. But as things stands, it looks like West Ham are trying to push forward and bring Jhon Duran from Aston Villa and Colombian international to the club. Keep your eyes on the channel as we bring the Hammers headlines later on. Come on, your eyes.